In the last 8 years since I stopped playing video games full time, there were 3 major shifts I made to go from my introverted self who would choose video games over a social life to meeting my extroverted self. The first major shift I made to go from my introverted self to at least out of my comfort zone more, I wouldn't say completely extroverted, was learning how to be my real authentic self in social settings rather than trying to be what I thought people expected of me. I remember before I made this shift, I wouldn't enjoy conversations with other people. I would always be slightly on edge, like a little anxious inside of myself. And then I would always be kind of trying to be something I'm not, trying to be cooler than I was, trying to really please the person that I was talking to. I didn't know it at the time, but this came across as me being really inauthentic and almost awkward in these situations, because you can really tell when someone's like trying to be something they're not, like it looks very unnatural in their body language and just how they're speaking. But then I started relaxing more, and for me personally, going to the gym and losing weight, gaining muscle, like this really helped with this process. And I would say like it helped me to start breathing really deep. Like I would have a lot of tension held in my stomach because I was like, oh shit, my stomach's like really big. What are people gonna think of me? But after I started going to the gym and doing cardio, I felt more confident, I was breathing deeply, and I also started to say more jokes at my own expense. I didn't need to please people inauthentically, but I could be authentic and just be like roasting myself, telling funny stories about myself. And that made me enjoy all these social situations a lot more. The second major shift I made was becoming more genuinely interested in other people. Before I made this shift, I had a lot of ulterior motives when I was talking to people. I wasn't actually interested in like learning more about them, but I was just asking like surface level, like how's your day? Like what are you doing? What class are you in? Like those types of questions that I just knew were meant to, like, they made sense contextually, like we're both students at this school, like we can talk about this, but I wouldn't just like dig into them. Like I wouldn't almost be like a researcher like when I was talking to people. And once I made this shift, I started asking a lot more questions. I started like being like, oh, like you got into this? Like, what do you like about this? Like how long you've been doing this, like swimming or some shit. I remember in particular, like there was this one guy, I used to live in Barcelona, and I heard him talking to some other people about poker, and my old self would have never just like went up to this dude and started talking to him. But then I was just like, oh shit, poker? Like I like poker. And so I just like randomly just interjected in their conversation, interrupted. I was like, oh, you play poker? Like, what do you do? And like, I have so many casino experiences and stories. And so I started connecting with him on that. I started asking more about himself, and we had a lot more in common than I thought. And we ended up becoming really close friends during that like 4 months that I lived in Barcelona. And the final shift I made was that I became a storyteller. About a week ago, I met up with these few guys that I haven't seen in 4 years. One of my friends told me later that before I showed up, it was pretty dry. Like it was kind of a boring vibe with them. And then when I pulled up though, I had infinite amounts of stories to tell these guys. And it wasn't just that I was like preaching my stories to these guys for like an hour straight. A good storyteller, in conversations at least, will ask other people about their own experiences, and it becomes this like circle of everyone sharing their own experiences, their own stories. And a good tip to get more into this and to get better at storytelling is to actually like see yourself when you're telling stories to other people, how good you are at it. I think most people I interact with on a daily basis are terrible at telling stories. It's honestly like laughable how bad they are. Like they won't understand how much context the other person knows. Like you ever be around someone who just says someone's name that they know, but no one else in the group has any idea who that is. And so you have to like bring it up. It's like, oh, this is like my aunt's brother, that's my uncle, whatever, like this is my friend, like this is like introduce the characters and then add vivid details to this, like what did the weather feel like, what did the entire scene actually look like. But a common thing that people will say is that they don't have stories to tell, like their life is pretty boring. And I would say I read this book called Story Worthy by I think Matthew Dix, and in the book he has this practice called a story bank. And when I implemented this, it fundamentally changed how I looked at stories. And basically you have like a collection in your notes document where you'll just write down a story every single day from your day. So like it could be like you going and walking your dog and something that happened, and it might not seem like a story or that interesting to you right now, but when you look back on that, you'll think it's very significant because it's this memory that gets enlivened. And so start practicing writing down stories from your life, and you'll see your brain start to identify more stories in your everyday experience. And when you start to enjoy telling stories to people and getting really good at entertaining them, at inspiring them, at even like scaring them in some cases, you will enjoy social interactions to a whole nother level. And that is what shifted me to being a more extroverted person. I just started loving the process. I hope you got some value from this video. If you did, go to the description and check out my products. And while you're there, why not hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell and watch this next video.